All right, guys, sorry I'm not going to be able to be with you today to go over this in person, but hopefully you can get what you need to from the video. I'm going to go a little bit slower than I normally do in a video just because I'm not here to answer questions. I'm not here to give you help, but I want you to follow along. There's going to be a few parts that I have you pause the video and try some problems on the homework on your own and actually do that. Pause the video, try the problems. See what you can do on your own, and then restart the video to move on. Okay, so what we're talking about today are called function operations, which are a lot like operations. Operations that you've seen normally is stuff like 5 plus 4 or 3x plus 2. You've seen operations happen amongst different terms, okay? What's going to be a little bit new for you this time is our functions are going to be what we're actually performing operations on. So in other words, let's say, for example, that f of x is, we're just going to make up a function here. Let's say that f of x is 5x minus 9. And I really don't like this. See if we can get this better. So we're going to make it 5x minus 9. Sorry, I didn't have this ready for you. So f of x equals 5x minus 9. So what that means is f of 7, if I were to plug 7 into this, that would be 5 times 7 minus 9, which becomes 35 minus 9, which equals 26. Remember that function notation. Now let's make another function, g of x. And we're going to make g of x equal let's say 7x plus 2. So g of 7, if I were to plug 7 into this, that would be 7 times 7 plus 2, which is 49 plus 2, which is 51. So that's kind of what you've done with functions in the past. But today, what we're going to do is actually take these functions and we're going to combine them. And there's some shortcuts here on the right that tell you that f plus g of x is just f of x plus g of x. So what that means is if I take these two functions and if I want to know what f plus g of x is, then I need to add these two functions together. That's all f plus g means, f of x plus g of x. So I do that. I take 5x plus or 5x minus 9, that comes first, and then I'm going to add g, which is 7x plus 2. Now adding's simple because all we have to do is combine like terms, right? So my 5x and my 7x become 12x, and my negative 9 and my 2 become negative 7. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be taking functions, adding them together. So this combined function becomes 12x minus 7. Okay, we're also going to subtract, multiply, and we might get into division, but probably not too far. So let's take some notes here. So addition, if f of x equals 5x minus 4. Now, I changed your function because I didn't like it from last year, and I forgot to change it on your notes. So scribble it out and change f of x to be 5x minus 4. G of x is going to equal 3x plus 8. And it asks us, what is f plus g of x? So in other words, what is these two functions added together? And then after I add them together, what is the function when I plug in the answer or the x value of 3? So step 1 is just to rewrite the function as one function plus the other. So I'm always going to start with what comes first. So I write my x function, 5x minus 4. And then I'm going to add my g function, 3x plus 8. And step 2 is to simplify. We combine like terms whenever we can. So I've got 5x's and 3x's. That becomes 8x's. And then negative 4 plus 8 becomes positive 4. So my new f plus g of x, my new function, is this part. So f plus g of x equals 8x plus 4. I added my functions together. And then step 3 is to plug in our value. So we just plug in whatever the value it wants us to find. Now, on the homework, some of the questions, all they want is this. They don't want you to actually plug in a number. And then some of them are going to want you to plug in the number and get the answer. Okay. So in this case, it wants us to do both. We found our new function, and now we've got to plug 3 into it. So 8x plus 4 becomes 8 times 3 plus 4, which is 24 plus 4, which is 28. So my answer, f plus g of 3, would be 28. Okay. So let's do one more just really quick. Let's say that f of x equals x squared minus 6. And let's say g of x is equal to 3x. And I want to find f plus g of x. I just want to find these functions added together. So I add them together. F is x squared minus 6. And g is 3x. I add those together, and then I simplify. And part of that is we're going to put these in a new order because I like my x's to come before my constants. So my answer would be x squared plus 3x minus 6. And then if it asked us to find what is f plus g of 2, then I would plug in a 2 and get 2 squared plus 3 times 2 minus 6 becomes 4, plus 6 minus 6. Those are going to cancel, and you're just left with 4. Okay, so that's addition with functions. We can also subtract, which works the same way with one little exception we have to be careful of. So let's say I have f of x equaling x squared minus 6 and g of x equaling 3x minus 4. What is f minus g of x, and then what is f minus g of 3? So we rewrite the functions just like before as one function minus the other function. But I have to be careful, and I didn't put this in the notes, so I'm going to have you add it, is the second function, when we're subtracting, the second function needs to be in parentheses. So your second function you need to put in parentheses. So my first function, f minus g, is f. So x squared minus 6. But then I'm going to subtract this entire function, which is why I have to put it in parentheses. So 3x minus 4. And then I simplify. First thing that I need to do is to distribute that negative that's in front. I'm going to distribute this negative to everything in the second function. And then I'm going to combine like terms. So I have x squared minus 6 still. That hasn't changed. But then I minus 3x. And then this negative distributes to the negative 4, which makes it a positive 4. And that's why the parentheses are important. The minus 3x isn't a big deal, but if you didn't use parentheses, you would be minusing 4 right here, which is wrong. Now I combine like terms. I have a negative 6 and a 4. Everything else is by itself. So I get x squared minus 3x. Negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. So that's my new function. Okay, that's my f minus g. And then it wants me to plug in a number for x. It wants me to plug in 3. Well, let's put value there because it's not always going to be a 3. Plug in the value for x. So instead of an x, I'm going to put 3 squared minus 3 times 3 minus 2. So this becomes 9. Negative 3 times 3 becomes negative 9, and minus 2. Those are going to cancel. And so my answer is just negative 2. Okay, so that is subtracting functions. It's just like addition, but you have to be careful that your second function gets those parentheses. Okay, so let's try this. I'm going to do an example well, I guess 2 examples, and then you can try these on your own on the homework. So f of x, again, I changed it to 10x plus 9, and g of x is a negative 1x. So f plus g, so I'm going to take 10x plus 9, and I'm going to add g, so I'm going to add negative 1x, and I'm going to combine like terms. 10x's plus negative 1x's becomes 9x's, and then I still have a plus 9 right here. So that's my new function. That's my first answer. And then I need to plug in 4 for my x value. So 9 times 4 plus 9 becomes 36 plus 9, which becomes 45. So 45 is this part. That's my f plus g of 4. And my 9x plus 9 was just my original function, my f plus g function, f plus g of x. Okay, now let's subtract them. So I'm going to take 10x plus 9, and I'm going to subtract g of x, which is negative 1x. So I've got to make sure to put that in parentheses. So this is my f minus g function. Now I simplify it. This negative negative becomes 10x plus 9 plus 1x. 10x's plus 1x is 11x plus 9. So there's my function. And now it wants me to plug 1 in for that x value. So 11 times 1 plus 9 just becomes 11 plus 9, which becomes 20. All right, now what I want you to do on homework 13, I want you to try numbers 1, 2, and 3. It's probably going to take you about 10 minutes, but pause the video, try number 1, number 2, and number 3. Number 1 and number 2, all they ask for is the function. But number 3, you're going to have to find the function and plug in a number to get an answer. So go ahead, pause the video, give those 3 problems a try, and then hit play when you're done. All right, now that we added and subtracted, we are going to move on to multiplying functions. I don't think we're going to get into dividing functions today. We're just going to focus on these 3 operations at the moment, and we might get into dividing later. So we've got f of x equals 8x plus 15, and g of x equals 4x. And it wants to know what is f times g of x. And once I get that, what is f times g of negative 5? So instead of adding or subtracting these functions, it wants me to multiply them together. So we are going to rewrite the functions as one function multiplied by the other function. Okay. And again, we're going to make sure that our functions are in parentheses. So 8x plus 15, I'm going to take that function and I'm going to multiply it by my second function, 4x. And the reason it's a good idea to put these in parentheses is that you don't forget that you need to multiply everything. So when I simplify, when I do step 2, I have to take this 8x and times it by the 4x. So that gives me 32x squared. But I also have to times the 15 by the 4x, which is going to give me 60 x's. So my new function, f times g, is 32x squared plus 60x. Now, depending on what these functions are, sometimes you'll just have to distribute like we did right here. Sometimes you're going to have to FOIL. Whatever you have to do, distribute, FOIL, combine like terms. Right here, we can't combine anything together. This is actually as simple as it gets, okay? Now it wants me to find f times g of negative 5. So I need to plug in that value. I need to plug in a negative 5 for my x. So I'm going to get 32, and then where my x is, I'm going to put a negative 5, and square it. And then I'm going to add 60 multiplied by -5. So that becomes 32. -5 squared becomes 25. And then I'm going to add 60 times -5 still. I haven't simplified that part yet. Okay, 32 times 25, that's going to be 800, I think. And 60 times -5 is going to be -300. So 800 minus 300 equals 500, if I did my math correct. Okay, so you multiply the functions together, and then if it wants a value, you're going to plug that value in. So let's try a couple examples, and then you can do some on the homework, just to show you a few more. So if f of x is 9x plus 3, again, I scribbled out a part here that we're not going to use. And if g of x is 3x, and if h of x is 15x plus 3, so I have three different functions. So first, it just wants me to multiply f and g together. So f is 9x plus 3, and g is 3x. So I've got to distribute that 3x to everything. So I get 27x squared. And then 3 times 3x is 9x. So 27 squared, or 27x squared, excuse me, plus 9x is my new function. And then to solve it, for 2, you would just plug in a 2 for where the x's are and get an answer. So I would get 27 times 2 squared plus 9 times 2. That becomes 27 times 4 plus 18. 27 times 4 is going to be 108, I think. And then when I add 18, I'm going to get 126, if I did my math correct. Okay. Now it wants us to do f times h. So I'm going to take f and multiply it by h. So I'm going to get 9x plus 3. That's my f function. And then h is 15x plus 3. So this is a case where I'm going to have to FOIL because I have two terms in each parenthesis. So 9x times 15x is going to be 135x squared. 9x times 3 is 27x. 3 times 15x is 45x. And 3 times 3 is 9. So combine like terms. So 135x squared plus 27 plus 45 is going to be what? 72x plus 9. So there's my new function when I multiply them together. Then it asks me to plug in a -2 for my x value, my x values, I guess. So I would plug that in and get 135 times -2 squared plus 72 times -2 plus 9. So that gives me 135. -2 squared is 4. 72 times -2 is -144 plus 9. And this one's going to be 540 minus 144 plus 9. So that's going to give us what? 396 plus 9, so 405, I think. Okay, g times h of x. So I've got to take my g, multiply it by my h, and then plug in 0. I'm going to let you try that one on your own. And then I want you to do on homework 13, you need to do number 4. It's going to look like this, except I don't think it has you plug in the answer. I think it just has you multiply them together and give them this part of give them the function. You're not going to actually plug anything into the function. You're just going to find the function. Okay. When you're done with number 4, you've got the rest of the homework that you need to work on today. There will be a quiz when you come to class next time. So make sure that you practice enough of these problems that you know how to do them and that you're prepared for the quiz that you're going to take in the next class period. All right. Good luck. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask the sub. I don't know if they're going to be able to answer you or not, but you can also email me and I'll see if I can get an answer back to you in time.